I love many of the new monsters Yu-Gi-Oh comes up with today, but no matter how much Yu-Gi-Oh advances, I feel we'll always have a soft spot for whatever monsters were around when we started following the series, and for me, it was the beginning. I can't help but get hype when they give old monsters some love, whether it's something functional or just a fun little reference. We always say, as long as the monster was featured in the original manga or anime, it's gonna get retrained. However, there are some monsters that have gotten nothing since their initial printing, so we want to go over the monsters featured in the early manga and anime that finally deserve a new card that we would have expected by now, whether that's a retrain or just appearing on the art of a card with an effect related to what they did in the manga. Since there are so many, we're pretty much sticking to Duelist Kingdom normal monsters for this one, but we'll expand our horizons if we ever come back to this topic again. We'll mainly be discussing what made these monsters secretly iconic, why we love them, and potentially what they would do if they saw a retrain in the regular card game. And joining me is my nostalgic partner in crime, Sam from Dungeon Dive Bar.
My favorite forgotten card is the top 10 censored card art video on the MrTopTenList channel.
Now, let's look back at the top 10 oldest Yu-Gi-Oh monsters that still need to be retrained. Number 10, Silverfang. I've always liked the detail on the way Kazuki Takahashi draws wolves, of which I only have 3 examples, but still, it made Silverfang a standout to me, despite being a monster who got annihilated every time he was summoned. The sheer ferocity in his face made it feel like he was going to do something cool, but guess what his most iconic moment is? It's when Yugi was dueling Mako on the water and land field in Duelist Kingdom, and Yugi activated the full moon to make Silverfang stronger, but it ends up just making the waves unruly and nullifying the power boost he got from the moon, causing him to get dragged down to the sea monster's domain. But hey, if it wasn't for Silverfang, the moon would not have been activated in the first place, meaning we would not have gotten the famous Attack the Moon scene, so we can thank Silverfang for that.
I love the fact that Silverfang's most iconic appearance is in fact a scene where he just gets drowned. And then we get one of the most iconic scenes from Duelist Kingdom. I would say Attack the Moon is the second most iconic scene after Dragon Catapult Cannon. But Silverfang just kind of existed, and Yugi did use it after Duelist Kingdom. It appeared very briefly in his duel against Bandit Keith. Mostly it just disappeared right after that duel when the suddenly Battle City rules happened, and Yuki went, I could play Silverfang, or I could drop it for the Magnet Warriors and Gazelle and Berformet. Poor Silverfang. 1200 attack got outdated before we even left the first anime. At least you appeared as a filler character to get smote by lightning. In the Steel of Orichalcos duel, when those two guys were trying to bring Yugi Eye of Timaeus when he was doing the Orichalcos soldier, darts struck them all with lightning, and the girl's dog turned into Silverfang.
I also like Silverfang because of his name. It's 2 cool things, Silver and Fang. It's a better name than the wolf monster named Wolf. If they wanted to retrain it, since its most famous moment was being paired with the moon, which powered up beast-type monsters in the manga, maybe put it in a new or existing beast-related archetype, and have it provide general protection or power boosts for beast monsters when it's on the field. Or perhaps they could retrain the moon spell alongside him, which he could search, and it would have something to emulate the ocean waves getting unruly like in the manga, like having it destroy cards in the same or adjacent columns. My final idea is to make its retrain a part of the Chimera Fusion Illusion archetype, since Silverfang was a beast in Yugi's deck, just like Gazelle and friends before they became Fusion Illusion support, so I think he would sneak right in there. I still like the idea that a new Silverfang would pair with a new moon card in some way, but regardless, that seems like the archetype that he belongs with. And why not retrain Wolf while they're at it? Maybe they can answer my question of, why was Silverfang the green one, but Wolf was the silver one?
Oh, he's one of the Joey cards. His text is, this Alpha Wolf uses his sense of smell to find the enemy. Hey, quit sniffing at my socks!
Number 9, Swordstalker. Swordstalker is one of those monsters I thought was in more duels, but that's probably because he was featured in the montage of monsters in the first season intro. Look at him, he's such a cool guy. Of course I remember him. He's a purple demon man with various protrusions, and his face is always in the shadows. And hey, he's got a neat sword too. However, he only appeared in 2 duels. Kaiba used him against Yugi in their rematch, where he attempted to attack Curse of Dragon, but then the dragon got swapped with Dark Magician, leading to Swordstalker's destruction. And then Kaiba used him in his duel against Pegasus, where he destroys the monster Pegasus put Crush Card Virus in, and then Swordstalker immediately dies as the whole deck gets screwed over. Wow, that appearance in the intro really carried his cool factor since he got nothing accomplished. As mentioned though, the design was so sick, no one cared about how much he failed. In real life, he was a level 6 normal monster with 2000 attack, which was fine for early playground formats. He was in the Kaiba starter deck, so a lot of people had him, and 2000 attack for a single tribute was good enough at the time. However, in the manga and anime, he had an effect that they never gave him for some reason. 1/4 of the attack of one monster in your graveyard can get added to his attack, or 20% of the attack in the manga. Okay, actually I kind of understand, since the early game was afraid of too much attack points on monsters, and if you have something like a Blue Eyes White Dragon in your graveyard, his attack goes up to 2750, which would have given him the highest attack for a single tribute monster at the time.
Swordstalker is a card Kaiba played literally as a revenge killer. You would destroy his monster and he would go, okay, Swordstalker, gain attack. And then yeah, its last actual non-filler appearance was being baited by Pegasus into destroying a Crush Card infected Dragon Piper, which isn't Dragon Piper fire attribute, which makes it an invalid target for Crush Card. Alright. Yeah, no, Pegasus just cheated. It was fire in both scenes.
In exchange for taking away his effect, they gave him lore stating he was formed by the vengeful souls of those who passed away in battle, which does make sense since his effect does use the soul of one of his fallen deckmates when you think about it. For a potential retrain, they could just go balls to the wall and give him the old effect without reducing it, so he just gains the attack of a monster in your graveyard bar none, and now you have a monster that can get around 5000 attack points without any special protection or anything, so it's just a beat stick to end all beat sticks. If they want to do something fun with the Vengeful Soul angle, maybe it can be an easy special summon by banishing a soul from the graveyard, and it gains a fraction of the attack of the banished monster, or it can banish monsters for attack boosts like Bazoo the Soul Eater, but to a greater extent. Of all those effect ideas, the special summoning one would probably be the most useful because he would be a free level 6 body, but hey, it would still give this cool guy a new use in life, and we like that for him. Number 8. Armored Lizard. One of Joey's signature techniques in Duelist Kingdom was sending out monsters one by one to die in order to stall for an actual strategy or just drawing a strong monster, and for some reason, I always used to like when I pulled monsters from the D Squad when I was a kid. Maybe it was because I recognized them and they were low rarity. There were guys like Masaki, Tiger Axe, Cool Beard Guy, but the one that always got my attention was Armored Lizard, in part because it was technically my first card. My first pack was Metal Raiders and it was at the top, so it was the first card I knew that was in my ownership. The second was the Bistro Butcher, and the third was Little Swordsman of the Ale. The rare in that pack was Dark Elf. Anyway, as mentioned, I was just happy that it was a monster I recognized, so that's probably why I liked it. I also like that it has the old Yu-Gi-Oh monster design philosophy, where it's just an animal that inexplicably got armor. How did that happen? No one knows, no one cares. And I love his 90s graphic design background. It's one of my favorites of the era. It's just an explosion of old CGI stuff.
Also, I didn't get to say this about your first draw card with Armored Lizard. Mine was Dark World Thorns, which was a card Mokuba used against Yugi. 1200, 800, 3-star plant.
Armored Lizard's main anime roles were being destroyed as a defender against Bones the Zombie Duelist and against Yugi, but I liked its role in the duel against Kaiba, where Joey just summons it in attack position against Battle Ox when it's clearly weaker, but apparently he has faith because Joey's like, it has armor, it can probably resist it. But then, hey, he's actually resisted. Oh wait, no, well, they faked us out for no reason. They were just treating stats as suggestions rather than the rules back in the day.
That's just like how Battle Ox beat Flame Swordsman because Battle Ox was magically resistant to fire, so Flame Swordsman lost 300 attack battling him. Armored Lizard is, again, it's up there with those Joey cards of, this is just a guy. He's just a guy with armor. He's a lizard with armor. He's not Joey's only armored lizard, eventually with Red Eyes Metal Dragon, but he's Joey's first armored lizard, and I think that makes him special. What did he do? What did he even do? He did nothing. He lost. He got destroyed every appearance. But he's definitely up there of old Duelist King Joey of, this guy's a weird little dude. I'm gonna put him in my deck. Hey Yuki, why can't I win? It's because your deck's composed entirely of little weirdos, Joey. Oh. What if I put littler weirdos but gambled with them? I think that would work just fine. Somehow takes 3rd place in Battle City. 4th place. He dueled Kaiba for 3rd and lost.
For retraining it, I could really only base it on the one scene where it seemed like he was going to resist Battle Ox, which would just be an outdated can't be destroyed by battle effect. Maybe just make him fully indestructible and untargetable, and he just isn't affected by any card effects at all. That's some good armor. Now what are you gonna do when he's just chilling in defense mode, unmovable now? Huh? Wait, no, I forgot about piercing damage. I forgot to say no battle damage. Also to note, there is Ragnarika Armored Lizard in the Ragnarika archetype, but it looks nothing like classic Armored Lizard, and it just lacks the same vibes to me as original Armored Lizard, so I'm considering these guys different. Number 7, Horn Imp. Not Horned Imp, Horn Imp. The official spelling was always Horn Imp. I don't know, that doesn't sound right to me. Though that was all the localization team somewhere, since in Japanese, his name was just Imp. He doesn't need a descriptor since there was only one imp ever in Yu-Gi-Oh! But in English, we also had Feral Imp. He couldn't just be a lesser imp, he needed a label to differentiate him with that change. So their logic was, he had a horn and that's gonna be his thing now. And for the record, Feral Imp was just Gremlin in Japanese, which is why its evolved forms are more scaly looking. There's a couple of other funny things about Horn Imp to me. One is that he looks like a standard weak enemy from a fantasy game. He's just a generic imp. You look at him and you expect him to be a monster that's supposed to be knocked down for easy EXP. How's he gonna attack? With his titular horn? The first time he got a real shot to fight was when Yugi put him up against Fiend Kraken, and he's dead already.
I think it's a shame that he never got equipped with Horn of the Unicorn. He did get turned to stone against Pegasus and then never appeared again.
The other interesting thing to me is this card was never released internationally. The only physical releases of this card are in Japanese sets, so if you want to see this card in English, you have to play one of the video games. Not that this card was ever viable, but it was pretty rare for a monster that appeared in the anime that had a Japanese release never to get an English release. As for Retrain ideas, I got nothing. His legacy was getting destroyed after being sent into battle without a chance. I guess his Retrain should be able to search things if he's destroyed, since that's what he was ultimately known for. Unfortunately, Horn Imp is a bit too generic to even think of a pack filler effect for. Number 6, Ryukushin, and by extension, Ryukushin Powered. This duo of monsters was interesting because very rarely in the early game did we have upgraded forms of monsters, and at the same time no less. You gotta give it a few years until they started doing upgraded forms regularly. Even in Japan, their release was almost simultaneous. The original Ryukushin was released in the first Japanese booster alone in 1999, and then it was re-released in the Japanese starter box later that year, which also contained the upgraded Ryukushin Powered for its first release. For international players, the two were released simultaneously for the first time in the Kaiba starter deck, and then Ryukushin Powered felt like it was everywhere in the early game, since it was in the evolved Kaiba starter deck 2 years later and in Metal Raiders. Being such a common card and being a level 4 monster with 1600 attack, this was a staple in early playground decks since 1600 was strong enough for a single normal summon before 1800 attack on level 4 monsters became a widespread thing. Original Ryukushin was useless though, but it was a level 5 in the manga for some reason. And if you don't remember that part of the manga adapted in the anime, that's because they cut out all the parts where Kaiba used it. But it was one of his openers in the early manga and in Season 0, so it was in the anime, just not the most well-known one. And it does this sick-ass summoning pose that was used for the real-life card art. If you do remember it from the anime, that's because it was in the Dungeon Dice Monsters duel as a low-stat starter for Duke. For Ryukushin Powered, it was only used by Kaiba, once in his rematch against Yugi as a weaker monster to get destroyed so it could be used with Swordstalker's effect, and then over 100 episodes later in Kaiba's anime Battle City duel against Joey, where it was bait for his Crush Card virus. So despite being the stronger Ryukushin, it was always the sacrificial monster for the sake of other cards.
It served no purpose toughest in his deck. He had better options available at the start, but it was weak enough that it could be used as bait for stronger cards to deal more damage. And that's kind of how Kaiba approached the game. High attack, reckless violence. Because at the end of the day, all Kaiba has to do, especially in Duelist Kingdom where there's no tributes, is stall until he gets Blue Eyes White Dragon and stop defense.
Now Ryukushin Powered actually did get some modern love in Rush Duel, with the monsters Palace Gargoyle and Gate Gargoyle. Palace matches Ryukushin Powered's pose, and Gate matches his stats. And while we're on the topic, there are gargoyles here because in every instance of Ryukushin's name in Japanese, it's actually gargoyle. Its English name is a completely different Japanese word entirely. Ryu means dragon and Kishin means demon god. I don't know why they made that change. Anyway, classical Ryukushin never got love outside the era, so if they brought it back into the modern game with a retrain, maybe it could have some sort of level modulation ability, since it was a level 3 in real life but a level 5 in the manga, making it a funky reference to how it changed its stats. Perhaps the level modulation could come from a die roll to reference how Duke Devlin used him in the anime. Any effect with a die roll tends to not be good, so I'm just doing this for the nostalgia, but it would give a Ryukushin retrain home in a gimmicky dice-themed deck that you would only play against your friends with. Also, his retrain art would be easy, since they never used his manga card art for the real-life art, so at the very least, a retrain gives Konami a chance to make some cool Kazuki Takahashi-inspired art. Number 5. Beaver Warrior. Just something about the overall existence of Beaver Warrior is funny to me, and I feel like it sticks out in people's minds more than other classic monsters. Not sure why, though. I think the concept of a purple bipedal rodent with armor and tiny weapons that takes itself seriously has this air of unintentional comedy to it, though the name cements the humor for me. We discussed it on our weirdest translated names list from 2021, but Beaver Warrior is just the English name. Based on its tail, I don't even think it's a beaver, probably a mouse.
Yeah, no, like I've never seen a purple rodent in any other media in my life. It's such a unique concept. I think we should retrain it, and it should be, I don't know, let's make it Giant Soldier of Stone support.
Anyway, its Japanese name is just Luis, nothing else. Yugi simply summons Luis, though some translations call it Luis the Beaver Warrior to tie it into the localization, but the point is, its name is Luis, and I've seen it spelled both Luis and Louise when translated, but I usually think it's the latter. Besides the funny factor, Beaver Warrior appeared a lot in Duelist Kingdom to add to its old legacy, either being a monster summoned to inevitably be taken down as an example of the opponent's power, or just shown as a card in Yugi's hand.
Beaver Warrior didn't do anything special. It didn't do anything incredible. It wasn't used for a dramatic event to change the tide of the duel. It was one of Yugi's exploratory monsters. It showed up to get destroyed by something bigger, and then Yugi used that as bait to lure it out. I think his most famous scene was when Pegasus negated it, equipping Horn of the Unicorn, and then killed it with Red Archery Girl.
It also randomly appeared on the art of two other cards in the 2010s, being Pinpoint Guard in 2013, which revives a level 4 or lower monster in defense and makes it indestructible for the turn, and Scrum Force in 2016, which prevents your opponent from targeting or destroying defense position monsters if you control at least 2, so it appeared on defense-oriented cards. Maybe if it gets retrained, the effect will also be defensive. Put the retrain in an archetype that could use the protection, and when it's on the field, everything a part of the archetype cannot be destroyed or targeted or something like that. Beaver Warrior did not do anything productive in the manga, so there's not much to go off of outside of the other cards it appeared on.
It's even got Jerry Beans Man. She's friends with Jerry Beans Man, Oslo Hero, and Thunder Kid. They're all friends. You don't remember Oslo Hero appearing never? That's because it never appeared.
More importantly for a retrain, make sure Luis is in the name internationally. We need that beautiful name displayed for everyone. Just call it something like Luis, the Rodent Raider of Righteousness. Number 4. Battle Warrior. I've mentioned it in other videos, but Joey vs. Bones the Zombie Duelist is one of my favorite duels in the series, and Battle Warrior being the monster that capped off that duel always made him iconic, or at the very least you remember his name. He's the guy who got to crush those zombies after Sword and Shield made their attack 0, making him stand out as one of Joey's random normal monsters who rose above the rest to have a big moment beyond just being put in defense to stall.
Battle Warrior has one of my favorite anime distinctions, which is he's famous for something he didn't do. Sword and Shield was the MVP of that duel. Battle Warrior just happened to be the monster used, and I think that's hilarious. It could have been any monster. It was about Sword and Shield doing its job. It was just deck filler. And then the last time Joey used Battle Warrior, twice he used Battle Warrior in Battle City, and it was to summon Jinzo both times. That's it. It was used as tribute fodder after that. You could have replaced Battle Warrior with Skull Servant, and it would have had the same impact. And I'm not saying that to dismiss Battle Warrior or Joey's deck. I mean that on a literal level. Oh, not Battle Warrior, because Jones had 855 life points. So anything with 900 defense during the Sword and Shield scene. And I think that's great. Joey loves his weird little guys, and I think Battle Warrior is the apex of Joey's deck of just guys being dudes.
And I do like how his lore makes a big deal that he fights with his bare hands.
He fights with his bare hands! You gotta say it with emphasis. There's 3 exclamation marks. A warrior that fights with his bare hands! 700 attack points.
Now, Battle Warrior has appeared on other card art, either relating to its fusion monster, or cards relating to its low attack and defense stats, but we've never gotten a new Battle Warrior monster, which seems like it would be versatile to give an effect to based on its star moment. I feel there are 3 different directions you could go with an effect. The first could be a simple Getsu Fuma or Ally of Justice route, where it auto-destroys zombies or dark monsters in battle, referencing how it crumbled those zombies with ease. That being said, this effect sounds like it's right out of 2004, which would mean it would be useless pack filler today if we went that route. The next idea is we could take that effect to the extreme, and just have it destroy anything it attacks at the start of the damage step, since battle tricks aren't really good in the modern game unless there's an archetype focused around them, meaning this effect would be fine and nowhere close to broken, but he would be slow and unsearchable. Maybe tie this Battle Warrior Retrain to a Joey archetype to give it some extra use, though I don't see him making waves with that either. My final idea is give him an effect relating to Shield and Sword, since he was the beneficiary of it. Maybe he can search it out like that Brain Control monster searches out Brain Control, and then he has an additional effect based around the effect of Shield and Sword. Perhaps because Shield and Sword swaps every monster's attack with their own defense on the field, have this new Battle Warrior also destroy all monsters whose attack stat does not equal their original value, to make it a gimmicky board wipe with extra steps that you compare with Shield and Sword that accidentally skips over any monsters with equal attack and defense values. Anyway, those are my ideas for a Battle Warrior. He's probably not going to be good, but if Bones' monsters can get a retrain, then I think Battle Warrior deserves one too. Number 3, Griffor. This one was a long time coming. I feel every so often we gas up Griffor for being a card in Yugi's deck that was just there, living his life, being a fun dude, and now he gets his own entry since this list was designed for him. Something about Griffor always stood out. I think it's because he was just a goofy looking guy who did serious work. I feel all the monsters in Yu-Gi-Oh at this point took themselves seriously, since this was before the Swordsman of Landstar era, so I like that he was this pink creature with a massive jaw and underbite and horrid posture. He looks like he'd speak with the Barney voice. I love him. He has unremarkable stats, the same as Luis, and he was released once in 1999 in Japan and only one time after that in 2014, and it took until 2015 for him to get an English printing, so I went my whole childhood without being able to get a Griffor, adding to his mysteriousness to me. His first big moment was in the Yugi vs Kaiba rematch, when he got equipped with Horn of the Unicorn to attack over Battle Ox, and I was like, hell yeah, Griffor, when that happened. It then gets destroyed by Blue Eyes, but you can't blame him there, that's a boss monster. His other big moment was in Yugi's duel against Mai, when Blackluster Soldier was going to be ritual summoned, and he was one of the monsters that was used as tribute, so congrats on being a part of history, Griffor. However, that was just in the manga. they did not include him in the anime for the ritual for some reason. He was there, he just never left Yugi's hand, so I'm glad the card based on this scene went with the manga version, which is no surprise. Cards based on the original series always use the manga first and foremost if applicable.
Griffor is absolutely one of the most Yu-Gi-Oh card designs of all time. This is a creature. This is just a weird little guy. Like, he's got these spiked claw talon cannons on his back. He's got this doofy grin. His feet don't work. He's got like a turtle shell. What is he? Why does he look like that? He's just a creature. I don't know how else to describe him. He's just a creature. And then Yugi gives him the horn of the unicorn, and then he stands up and you're like, he has legs? It's such a weird design. And the fact that nothing ever got played with this literally monstrous thing is kind of a waste of potential, I feel. Plus, look at that smile. Look at his card art smile. That's such a goofy little grin. This guy's going, I've got no thoughts in there. There's nothing rattling in that head. That's just a guy who's excited to be here and then gets a horn and gets obliterated by a dragon.
I think he's at max goofiness on that ritual spell he appears on.
I never looked in detail at the Super Soldier ritual art. I do not like front-facing Griffor. I do not like him. Where are his eyes are a completely different color. Like, there's so much going on, and he's looks so much smaller. He's Karibo's size. That's Griff. That's just Griff. This is Griffor Jr. I think it would be so funny if Griffor's Retrain was just Griffor and family. His Retrain is he's just got on an A shirt with a can of nondescript alcohol and he's in a recliner. And it's just tired dad Griffor.
Now this is normally where we would pitch a Retrain, but thanks to the spin-off game Rush Duel, we have one. We were excluding cards in this topic that got a Retrain within the last 10 years or so, since it's about monsters that got no recent love, even in Rush Duel, but we've been on the Griffor train for so long, we waived that here. In 2025, it got the card Like Calling Griffor, and its effect references when it was ritual material for Blackluster Soldier, where you can reveal a warrior or spellcaster ritual monster from the extra deck, since that's where they are in Rush Duels, and then you can set a ritual spell that mentions that monster. When I saw they gave him a good ritual effect based on that moment, I was like, of course, it's genius, why didn't I think of that? If this Retrain was in the regular card game, I could see it being his effect too, only expanded to be any ritual monster type, and maybe have it where he can just activate it by revealing himself in the hand, or special summoning himself in some way, since Rush Duels have unlimited normal summons per turn, so getting him on the field is easy in Rush Duels. We also wanted to talk about Winged Dragon Guardian of the Fortress #1 for this topic, but we don't have enough entries since he's not in the next two segments, so we'll just mention him here since he got a similar Rush Duel Retrain. His effect lets him set Black Magic Ritual, in reference to when he was on the field when Magician of Black Chaos was being set up to be ritual summoned against Pegasus. Once again, I was like, why didn't I think of that when I saw that effect? In conclusion, Rush Duel gets so many cool cards that reference other old cards. I had no idea how crazy they would get with their references after I initially covered them in a 2022 video. Gotta consider a video just about Rush Duels at some point. Number 2, Garuzis. Hey, it's Garuzis, an underrated piece of Joey's Duelist Kingdom deck. It was a level 5 normal monster with 1800 attack, just like Flame Swordsman in the manga, but it never got signature monster status. It was more treated as one of Joey's goons before the headliner monsters. However, if you look at his record, Garuzis did better in every subsequent anime appearance. His first appearance was in the duel against Kaiba, where he was in the lineup of monsters to get knocked down, and in the manga, his premiere instead was against Mai, where he had the same role of being knocked down easily. His next appearance was against Bones the Zombie Duelist, where Joey sent him out against Clown Zombie, something Garuzis was stronger than, but it was when we were learning that zombies can revive themselves and become stronger when revived, so you know, Garuzis would have had it if we had known better. After that was against Bandit Keith, where Garuzis was actually successful. Not only did he get a clean kill against Pendulum Machine, but when he was going to be destroyed by Launcher Spider in retaliation, he got to wield Kunai with Chain, stopping the spider and getting the reversal kill. And then he was destroyed by Barrel Dragon soon after, but that's the boss monster, so he had a good run. That was it for Garuzis in the manga, but the anime added in Joey's Duelist Duelist Kingdom duel against Yugi, where Guruzi's got to be used as bait, survived, and then got to stop Dark Magician with kunai with chain again. And then he just chilled on the field until the end of the duel. Like Time Wizard flung the field many years into the future, but Guruzi's was just there unaltered, like, sup, I don't age, I use face cream.
He even used it against Mako in Battle City. He tribute summoned it and then got torrential tributed. He used this card through Battle City. Joey loved Guruzi's. In doing research for this video, I did not realize how many duels Guruzi's was actually in Duelist Kingdom. It is bizarre because he dropped Flame Swordsman entirely, except for filler, but he kept Guruzi's. I don't get it. It is also a very Yu-Gi-Oh monster art. It's a dragon man that's actually a beast warrior with a battle axe.
That's also fire.
Burninating the countryside, burninating with a battle axe, burninating all the people, and never declaring a single attack in the entire anime.
I also just like that he's a lizard man named Guruzi's, which is fun to say and look at.
I think we should have a Red Eyes Guruzi's, and its effect should be searching out kunai with chain, and that's it.
Maybe just any Red Eyes card in general, since all the kunai with chain retrains are Red Eyes support now.
Red Eyes Baby Dragon, Gearfried.
There is one other archetype I think he fits right into for a retrain, and that's the Max Metalmorph archetype, which we discussed on our unexpected retrain list. It features new metallic forms of monsters that were in the Joey vs. Bandit Keith duel from both players' decks, including machine forms of monsters that weren't even metamorphed in the duel, each with different original types. Guruzi's played a big role in that duel, and there isn't a monster that was originally a beast warrior in the archetype yet, so I see this being where the retrain should land. The metamorph monsters can already search their traps pretty easily, but maybe give this new Metal Guruzi's a souped up kunai with chain retrain that it can search, since he was the keeper of the chain in the duel. Just make it where this chain negates a lot and doesn't let the monster it targets be used as material for anything. Have Guruzi's go full lockdown. Anyway, that's Guruzi's. I came in just wanting to say his fun name, but I ended up being reminded, hey, he was pretty useful. For number 1, we went with a card that was used by the majorest of the major duelists in Season 1. We went for quantity over quality with how many users it had rather than total appearances, but of course it was still a jobber in the end. Number 1, Rude Kaiser. This card is brimming with early Yu-Gi-Oh energy. It's a creature of ambiguous origin, it's got sharp weapons, bonus points for being unorthodox weapons, and on top of it all, it has abysmal stats that never mattered in the anime when there was no tribute summoning in Duelist Kingdom. It's a level 5 normal monster with 1800 attack. He was obsolete shortly after he was released, but the design made him stand out. He has wrist blades, which the lore refers to as axes, but regardless, arm blades are those things that feel like they should be dangerously lethal against anyone, but characters just somehow survive against them. Baraka from Mortal Kombat gets it the worst. But the most interesting fact about him is how he was the only monster from the early days that was in the deck of the 3 main characters during Duelist Kingdom. As you could tell from this list, we spoke about monsters used by Yugi, Kaiba, and Joey, since they had the most duels and biggest story beats, so of course their monsters had the most chances to either be jobbers or rise to the occasion. Rude Kaiser filled that role for all 3 during his Duelist Kingdom anime appearances, at least with improvement each time. He was used in episode 1 by Yugi, where he was a standard set monster to be destroyed by Judge Man when Yugi was stalling, at least his death pose looked cool. Next was by Joey vs. Kaiba, where he fared about the same, but Joey summoned him in attack mode versus Rabid Horseman despite the lower stats once again, so at least he showed his face and got a chance to fight an unwinnable battle. But finally, Kaiba used him with success against Pegasus. Not only was he Kaiba's opener, but he lasted until the boss. Kaiba uses him to destroy Toon Alligator, and then when it looks like he's toast against Parrot Dragon, Kaiba flips Mesmeric Control to lower the dragon's attack, letting Rude Kaiser get the win. Then he basically stays on the field for the rest of the duel. When Kaiba's Blue Eyes White Dragon is neutralized, Kaiser goes to defense and sits there for a bit until Pegasus breaks out the Toon World to steal Blue Eyes and end Rude Kaiser's role in the whole series. Despite that, it was a good showing, and in the manga, this was Rude Kaiser's only appearance. He was never used by Yugi or Joey there, so by default, he was Kaiba's monster, even getting his first international release in the Kaiba starter deck. And that opens up the question, why did the anime writers like putting him in decks so much? They had plenty of other monsters to use. That's a rhetorical question. opinion. No one really knows.
I love how Rude Kaiser is just Garuzi's with 100 more defense. There's no reason Joey should have both of them. They're both Beast Warriors. They both have 1800 attack. They serve the same niche in Duelist Kingdom. For the longest time, I thought this card and Garuzi's were the same monster in Duelist Kingdom. I thought Joey played Garuzi's and also Kaiba played Garuzi's when he used it. It took me until I was an adult to realize they were separate cards. And then it's so out of place because not only does it appear in all of their decks, it never gets used by anyone but Kaiba to actually do anything. It just is destroyed otherwise. It's such an insane card to put in all their decks, especially when there's such a huge thing about everyone's deck is unique except for staples like Monster Reborn, Pot of Greed. Apparently, Rude Kaiser is a staple. And also, what is he the Kaiser of? Kaiser is a title. What does he rule? Is he a former Kaiser because he got excommunicated for being too rude? He's a Beast of Warrior. Is there some like swamp or something? And also, it says an axe in each of his hands. Those are stapled to his arm. Those are just bolted on there. He's not holding anything. He's just got axes stuck on his arms. I like his pauldrons though. His pauldrons and his crest being pulled into a ponytail, they're all really cool.
For a retrain, I think he should join an archetype, either being one that integrates old monsters like Memento, or just one of Kaiba's archetypes, since he was ultimately Kaiba's card. Sorry if that just ends up being Kaiser with eyes of blue in the end.
I think Rude Kaiser needs to be retrained in the same way Guiltia was, and be Dark Magician, Red Eyes, and Blue Eyes support in all the worst ways. It needs to be unsearchable, it needs to have an insane condition to fulfill, and it needs to normal summon itself with attribute.
For an effect, since he was the beneficiary of the attack drop from Mesmeric Control, maybe he can be the battle phase guy of his archetype and lower the attack of whatever monster he battles with to 0, and give him 2 attacks because he has 2 arm axes, and also give him some sort of immunity or negate during the battle phase, since this effect idea still feels lacking. So for making his rounds in all the decks and being a cool dude who's kinda rude, Rude Kaiser slices and dices his way to the top of this list. Now, what did you think? Were all these monsters gone from your memory, or does the power of nostalgia make them less forgotten than we advertised? And who are some of your favorite classic Yu-Gi-Oh monsters, whether we discussed them or not? Let us know in the comments. Anyway, thank you all for watching, and we will see you in the next video.